Hey Planet Poke people, it's me, DioGenZ, and it's time for Pokemon of the Week. This week we're going to do an evolution of a ghost type that we've already done before, and that is Dusknoir's next evolution, once given the Reaper Cloth and then traded with a friend or yourself in 2DS. It's Dusknoir. Now, looking at this Pokemon from the onset, not even thinking about stats, not even thinking about moves, just looking at its sprite and all the animations that went along with it, I thought this Pokemon would be a metagame badass. But it turns out, it's almost as if it's pre-evolved Dusknoir's form with the Eviolite item, which if you guys want to reference back to that video, it is in the Planet Poke Pokemon of the Week playlist, so you could see the main difference in how you raise this thing. It almost was better as a wall back then than it is now as an offensive striker. When we get a look at its stats, I was disappointed to see that it wasn't a special attacker. Normally I expect ghost types to be in the special attacking range, but since this guy has hands that he must use, you'll see that his moves are mainly punching type moves. Something else that also disappointed me about this Pokemon was about his ability. There was no Dream World ability as of yet that had been added on to him, and I thought it would have been very advantageous to see the ability that increased the power of punching moves. Now, off the top of my head, I'm not sure what that ability is called, but you guys can reference me in the comments below. So if he had that ability, I feel as though it would have done a lot more to aid his offensive set, but Pressure isn't a bad ability. It makes it so that your opponent, whenever striking with whatever move they use, loses more power points than if they had just used it and lost 1 power point. So if you don't know PP, power points, what that stands for, it means how many times you can use a particular move. So if you've got Hyper Beam, the power points of 5, you can only use it 5 times. Of course, unless you use max power points, max PP, PP max, beforehand, or a PP up to get those power points higher, so you could use it a couple more times. You cannot max it out to infinity if you're just tuning into the metagame now, so it's not going to be able to counteract Pressure so handily. But the main thing with Dusknoir is not its Pressure, it's all about the punching power that it possesses. It's got 100 base stat for attack, so of course we're going to max that out in effort values. Then what really perplexed me about this Pokemon was its attribute of defensive and special defensive power. We saw that over on the Dusknoir set pretty easily. It was plain to see that the best thing to focus on would definitely be defense and special defense. But Dusknoir gets an increase of power when it grows longer arms. That's really what it is. Dusknoir, it has those floating hands, not too handy for doing punches. Maybe a shadow punch if it feels like it, but the power is aided by that arm strength that Dusknoir has. So I decided to split the defense and special defense in half with the 252 max out that I usually aid on another effort value for, say, speed. Usually when you have a sweeper, an offensive attacker like this, you want them to be super speedy. But that's one of the things that was perplexing about this ghost type, was although it did have defense and it did have special defense, it had no speed and it also had barely any health points, which is very odd because whenever I look at a set like this, whenever I look at not effort values, but base stats that show me something like this, you know, I want to make this a wall, and I thought about it, but after trying to calculate and set moves to it, really all I have for you today is this one Dusknoir set. If you have iterations that are different, you have some variants on what this set is, please comment below, I'd like to know. But as a wall, I really just don't see this Pokemon working out well. I mean, yeah, it's got some attributes of a wall, it's got some characteristics of it, like the low speed and the good defense and special defense, but then it has really not a lot of health to stay on the field, and that's what walls are all about. It's walling your opponent, it's putting them off, and it's setting up your tricky tactics and arena traps like stealth rocks and toxic spikes that you want a wall for. With such low health though, it already starts Dusknoir out at a disadvantage when it hops into the field, and it has to do what it needs to do as quickly as it can. So you must be wondering now, well, Diogen Z, you've invested absolutely nothing in speed. In fact, if you take a look at the nature Brave, I made sure that it had a disadvantage at speed. And the reason being is that this Dusknoir will fit into a team for a Trick Room set. If you don't have Trick Room on your team, you should not be having Dusknoir on your team. I'm sorry to say, as cool as this Pokemon looks, and trust me, I really wanted to have this thing be able to stand up on its own a lot more, but this thing definitely needs a Trick Room supporter. So don't just be adding this Pokemon willy-nilly thinking that, oh, it's an awesome ghost type, it's got good powerful punches that have a nice range on the super effective scale, being fire, ice, and electric. Don't think that you could pull it off so handily if you don't have the Trick Room boost, because what Trick Room does is it changes the physics and way the game is played for 5 turns so that the slower Pokemon, the slowest Pokemon on the field, will have move priority. Now you may wonder, then why not attach the lagging tail, because there are, I'm sure, slower Pokemon out there that probably will be benefited by Trick Room on your opponent's side that maybe would be faster in this altered reality. And the reason being is I was a little confused on how the lagging tail works. When I went to Cerebi, I checked it out, and it said yes, in fact, it makes it so you are the slowest Pokemon. You go down 1 speed priority, so whatever speed it was at compared to your opponent, it would go 1 step below that. But the thing was, it had one caveat that caught my eye, saying that it's not affected at all by Trick Room. So if that's what I think it means, that means even though your Pokemon is slower than before, it's not going to get excess priority from it. So stay away from Lagging Tail and instead include an Expert Belt or a Life Orb. Expert Belt is cool because super effective moves get a 20% power boost, and Life Orb is even more awesome, but I was kinda hesitant to put it on my Dusknoir set just because Life Orb takes 10% of your health every time you use a move. But the thing is, instead of the 20% on only super effective moves that you get with the Expert Belt boost, you'll be having a 30% increase in your attack power of every move that you use. So any move, whether it's super effective or not, will be getting a power boost from Life Orb. And when you look at its low health, that's kind of why I stayed away from it. But when you consider the job of a sweeper, I could see how this could be really advantageous, because once Dusknoir meets its fate, once it's taken out by a surprise payback, or it's taken out by a strong Shadow Ball, then there's nothing you can do, and you better hope that it waged as much damage as physically possible, where you're going to get that effect from the Life Orb. Expert Belt is a more safe method of going. You don't have any HP cost for it, but you also get less of a attack bonus. So the item inclusion is up to you, but if you're looking for what gives you the most bang for your Dusknoir buck, it's definitely going to be Life Orb. You're just purely going to get more power from it. Over on the move list of things, you have all 3 of the elemental punches, which is fantastic. When you look at how many offensive moves Dusknoir has, it's kind of laughable. But what's important to focus on is not the quantity, the size of the move pool, but the quality of the move pool. Exactly what physical offensive moves can you throw in there that are going to lend this Dusknoir set great type advantage across many different games. No matter what game you enter, if you alter the field before Dusknoir gets there with Trick Room, what are the moves that are going to lead to victory on almost every situation? And having the trifecta of fire, ice, and electric punches is a very powerful ally in aiding you in this effort. Now, for this set, I made it completely punches. You could see the additional moves that I've added there are really only based on your team's advantages and weak spots. If you have any holes in your team, in lacking super effective striking force, in ground power, then you might want to use Earthquake on this set, and then maybe, for example, if you have a stronger Ice Beam on maybe your Lapras, perhaps forego the Ice Punch for Earthquake. This way you get some more balance out on this. But now you understand why I suggested it would be really cool if in maybe Black 2 and White 2, Nintendo added the ability for Dusknoir to have the punches increased in power. I really wish I knew what that ability was. If I remembered it, I'd seem a lot more professional, but hey, just goes to show I don't know everything. I know barely anything when it comes to this, but I do a lot of research and I do a lot of training, and it gets me pretty far. Unfortunately, that's just going to be a dream, a hope, a wish that comes about, but I want you guys to tell me what you think of this set and Dusknoir's awkward base stats. Do you think that this Pokemon is really advantageous to use on your team, especially if you have Trick Room? Have you maybe used this Pokemon outside of the Trick Room set? Let me know in the comments below. I'm DioGenZ. Remember to subscribe to Planet Poke, and if you want to be included in next week's Pokemon of the Week, record some battle footage and post it as a video response on this video, and it will be included and you'll be given an awesome shout out. So I'll see you next week.